Energy of my energy achieving stealth. Van Allen belt level, deadly, steady, ready, aim. Steps more like Big Daddy to Eddie Kane.
Welcome to the Way of Kingz, presented by the Kingmaker. That's me. If y'all didn't know. We appreciate you all coming out for our pilot episode. This is an idea, this concept of this podcast is something that all of us, the hosts, as well as our producers, and hopefully all of you all who have showed up today, see as something that's a necessary conversation for us to have. What you might have seen on the flyers, on the video leading up to this, is that we intend to laugh, have fun, to eat, drink. We are in an amazing brunch place. We're over here having breakfast for dinner, which is amazing. But also we're here to heal. This podcast is designed to be therapeutic for our hearts, our emotions, and our souls. So I have the wonderful, amazing pleasure of my co-host, of introducing my co-host, Headkrack.
Peace and love, y'all.
Some of you guys know who he is, some of you do not. But Headkrack is not only a comedian, he is a TV show host, he is a radio show host, he is a rapper. He apparently also does AV, he does production, and probably a lot of other things that we don't know about.
Sell a little weed on the side, whatever's necessary, whatever keeps the ball going. Nah, I was joking, but maybe I'm not. And also, feel free to, come alive. Y'all can make noise, y'all can clap. It's a festive environment, but, when we talking, everybody listen, and we want to make sure we hear y'all as well. So, just so we can prove that we got some live bodies in the building, let me hear y'all make some noise. Yeah. Yo. We're here right now, but to the audience, it's like 300 of y'all. Let's go.
That did sound amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
It's tremendous.
So in addition to Headkrack, we have another co-host, Kevin Williams, who is a self-made multi-millionaire, an investor in real estate, and a mentor specifically of men. So he's one of the reasons that I asked for him to join us in this is because he has very specific insight that will really help us identify what things need to change and what our solutions are. He's a very solution-oriented person, I would say. Now that our introductions are out of the way, did you want to say something, Kevin?
Oh, no.
Okay, I'm good. Okay. So let's talk about what the Way of Kingz is. Now, what inspired the name is I am an avid reader. I probably read 2 to 3 books a week. I love to read. And one of my favorite novels has the very first book is titled The Way of Kingz. And I just, it spoke to my soul from the very beginning of just hearing it. I was like, I love that. And I looked at, since obviously being the Kingmaker with the Kingmaker Enterprises, this being my brand, it also spoke to my brand. And there's a lot of, especially in our culture, there's a lot of focus on this concept of kings and queens and all of this stuff. But does anybody even know what that means? Does anybody have a tangible understanding of what it means to be a king? So part of this conversation, and even in the book that I love so much that inspired it by Brandon Sanderson. This is Stormlight Archives. I'll shout that out because I love this book series. Part of that was identifying what it actually means to be a king. In that regard, it has to do with the concept that you would consider in old days, right? Where you actually had kings, queens, emperors, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. But what that responsibility looked like. And there's so much of that that's so similar to what that responsibility is like for a man, even for himself and in his individual family dynamics, right? So the purpose of the Way of Kingz is to develop men. I brought my son, who is 18 years old, here because he needs to hear this. And I hope that for future, we are going to be doing this every week. I hope that for future podcasts, you all will bring they're, at least old enough to be technically considered an adult. I hope that you will bring the young men in your lives, but not just the young men. this message is not for just one specific age range. Manhood is not something that is automatic. You don't just become a man because technically you hit the number and you can reproduce. Manhood is something that is developed. It is something that has to be worked at. It is something that, dare I say, has to be earned. So this conversation with these men is designed to identify how to be a man. What is a real man? And how that influence of becoming a man, how that will affect every aspect of our culture, family, how the previous generations affected us in this regard, and what will set us on the right path.
Cool. Let's get to
thank you
it.
For coming.
Big up. So, and this is an open forum, open format type situation. We're going to throw some questions out there. Well, she's going to throw some questions at us. We're going to answer the questions. We're going to bounce the ball off y'all wall as well, and we're going to take it to the top from there. So, first and foremost, first thing on the menu, what you got?
So, number one is why we're doing it in this format, right? A lot of podcasts, when you think of a podcast, you don't necessarily think of this, right? This is a little, not that you've never been to one, you've never seen this happen, but this is not the common denominator when you think of a podcast. Part of the goal with not only this podcast, but with what we hope to accomplish with it is to change the way that we view our entertainment culturally. So many, especially Black people, are spend their available free time doing nothing productive. I wanted to, and Headkrack and Kevin agreed with me on this subject, I wanted to create an environment, to invite people into an environment where we can have fun, where you get to benefit from Headkrack's comedic talents. At the same time, we can drink, we can eat, we can have this communal experience, and also, when it's over, we can dance. We can listen to music. We can enjoy, but we are learning something. What do we call it?
Edutainment.
Edutainment. In order for us to, I want people to choose coming here and listen and having this conversation with us over going to a club, over going to a lounge. Let's make the things that we spend our time and energy doing productive. So that's why we're doing it in this setting. And when people think about therapy, they don't really think about having fun. And they don't think about drinking, and they don't think about eating. So I wanted to redefine what a therapeutic communication could look like. So that's why we're doing it in this setting. So I appreciate you all coming out and doing this. And I hope that you're ordering food and that we are here at the R.E.A.L Milk and Honey in historic College Park, and I'm hoping that you all are drinking, that you're eating, and that you're enjoying that aspect of it while we're taping.
I highly recommend the salmon bites.
Yes.
I had one and I am full. Just one bite. It's a shareable. It's great. Try it.
It's also the blackened salmon and grits. That's what started this whole thing. Me coming here and eating blackened salmon and grits. So that's amazing as well. Now, one of, I think, the most important things for us to do to take this podcast into really being useful is to define what manhood is, right? We've established so far that manhood is not something that is a decorative title, right? It's not something that you get just because you are now 18 or you're 21. So I want to ask my co-hosts what you all think manhood is.
Start with Kevin.
All right.
Headkrack just put you on hold.
Well, I've done a lot of. I've done second place amount of talking so far. I want to make sure everybody's represented. You know what I mean?
So I've heard a lot of definitions about manhood and what people think it is. And based off the way that you're raised, based off the experiences that you have, everyone has a different opinion on what a man should be. But the things that are consistent or should be consistent about a man is that his commitment to whatever he's about. That's one of the first things. If you're into audio visual, you should be serious about that. You should have a certain amount of dedication to it. You should know your skill inside and out, it's a certain amount of commitment that you'll have to it. If your thing is being a comedian, same thing. If nobody likes a half-ass comedian where, they study their craft sometimes and sometimes they don't, you should be able to tell that there's a lot of preparation that goes into it. He has a certain amount of commitment to his craft. And if we, as men, put that type of dedication, that type of energy into whatever it is that we do, then we'll be successful in it. We can prosper in it. We can go further in it. And in every field that you're in, whatever the person decides that they want to be in, what allows people to see them as a real man is their commitment, their focus, their dedication, their seriousness about it. And that can transfer into different categories, different ways. That's what can be determined as being a real man. If you change every week and you got a different idea, so on and so forth, people see you as a boy, not a man, a little fickle, wishy-washy, always changing and things of that nature. It's very difficult for people to see and respect you as being a man if you don't stand on something. So what the something is up to you. But once you stand on it and show that dedication and commitment to it, you'll be recognized as a man inside and out.
Yo.
I have to give that
Solid pitch. Like, for real, for real. For me, a man isn't present. A man is there. There's a difference between being present and it's different than being there. I have friends who are men who also operate maternally as well, because that maternal component is missing out of their family dynamic, where like the mom is not necessarily doing everything that she needs to do. So, I got a friend who homeschools his kids, even at a detriment to himself and his time, because he wants to be there, not just present, but there, and make sure his kids get the proper education. So a lot of times we as men have to take on multiple roles and be multi-dimensional, multifaceted, but most importantly, be there, because everybody's needs are different. And, a lot of times, people operate in a space where a man is supposed to go to work, pay all the bills, da-da-da-da-da-da. That is one archetype of what manhood is. Sometimes being the man is being Mr. Mom. Sometimes being a man is being the classic Ralph Cramden type who goes to work, 12 hours a day and make the money, and mom the wife holds down the crib. But at the end of the day, you got to show up. You got to be consistent. One of the things I throw in there is be fair and just in all your dealings. That's just good humanism right there. Right. And be willing to listen and understand. And be there for people, not just be present. Because there's a lot of people who are present, but they're not there.
Not there.
Yep.
I love that.
Thank you.
So to the men who are here in the audience, help us identify from your perspective. You've heard Kevin, you heard Headkrack. What does it mean to you what does being a real man look like? And I said manhood, but it's the same difference here. What does being a man look like? What does being a real man look like? What is manhood to you? Anybody? Oh, we got non-men, but we got Hurricane here. You got to come to the altar.
All right, well, to me, a man is responsibility. It is making sure that all of the things that need to be done to and for your family gets done at any cost. To you as an individual, you're dead. You are a man. I have a wife and kids. So my responsibilities they change from minute to minute, hour to hour.
That's life.
Whatever my wife wants done, that's a new responsibility. As a man, I am doing my best to accomplish. My kids come to me all the time with something spur of the moment, and as a man, my responsibility to them is to guide them and to show them and be responsible for what I'm teaching them and what they learn. It's responsibility in a nutshell.
In every aspect.
In every aspect.
I love that.
To me, that's
So we've got commitment. We have actually being there, being involved. We've got responsibility. Who else?
Young lady right there.
Please, we'd love to hear your feedback.
Sure. Oh, okay. So I said that I can recognize a.
You might need to just bring it a little bit closer, because oh, you can hear. Okay.
Oh, okay. I was saying I can recognize a real man by his decision making, like how decisive he is, and his discipline and his structure. So that goes as far as like a plan. So most of the time, you know, if it's like a real man, he's gonna have foresight. He's gonna have a plan, but is he sticking to it? Mm-hmm. Do his words match his actions? Things like that. So that's how you can kind of recognize, and you know that can only sometimes be seen after time.
Is he a man of his word?
Yes.
That's a big one for me. Yeah. Anyone else? Anyone else have any thoughts on? Okay, please.
So I have a few. So somebody said in touch with feelings and proper communication skills.
True. Okay. Absolutely.
Okay. We also have here how he shows high respect to all women with the emphasis on all. We also have here, he won't be wearing a dress. It's 2025. I'm done. And shit is wild out here. I don't know who said that, but that's how they recognize a real man.
Not wearing a dress. I support it. I support it.
And mine was specifically that a real man to me is identified by how close he compares to my dad, because I am a daddy's girl. A lot of times, as far as for a woman, on the woman side of things, men need to know that if you are dating a woman whose father is in their life or who is very prevalent in their life, she's comparing you to her dad. Right. And I think a lot of men date women, don't even think about meeting the dad, or, you know what I mean, seeing how important that dad role was in that female's life. So for me, is about how much he compares to my dad, and those little things are hardworking, family first, and able to hold a load. Just being able to hold what's going down.
When you said able to hold, you said able to hold a load?
Able to hold a load, yes.
Meaning handle anything? Is that
handle anything? Okay. Yes, that's right.
Want to clarify that for the?
Yes, because I would like to say able to handle the load, meaning so a lot of times I feel like in today's time, based on the podcasts and things like that that's going on, I'm gonna say it this way right here, right? So let's go back to the biblical stage. I'm gonna say it that way. When Eve made Adam bite the apple or whatever was going on in the garden, and she was cursed with bearing with having to have pain during labor, childbirth, cramps, periods that come around every 28 days, okay? I feel like men today feel like they can cut corners and be like, oh, well, we don't want to work this hard. Or the woman making me do this and do that and do this, and I got to carry this load, and I don't want to do this here. But my thing is we can't give up the curse that we got.
We don't have a choice.
We don't have a choice. And the Bible says the man don't work, don't eat. You know what I'm talking about? You don't eat nothing. Nothing. Okay.
Like nothing.
Nothing. Emphasis on the nothing. But yeah, no, that's what I mean by carry the load. Like, sometimes it's hard. I know men be like, man, we beat down. You know what I mean? I understand, but if we can't give up what was given to us that long ago, I feel like real men gonna hold it down regardless of whatever's going on.
I actually really like that perspective. the concept of there not being it being a non-negotiable thing, that you being a man, your commitment is non-negotiable. You being there is non-negotiable. Your responsibility is non-negotiable. I love that. Now, what about myths or things about being a real man that you all think are bullshit?
You know what? Probably got to hold that thought. Go to break, right? I thought you said wrap it up. Okay, my bad.
He was saying that was part of it.
Okay.
So I want to know from you guys what common stereotypes related to manhood, being a real man, do you think that we need to burn to the ground? What things do we need to set the fuck on fire? Yes, ma'am, Jen.
I think.
You got to say that in the microphone. I mean, your voice loud.
I know, she carries.
I really.
She was like, I was ready for that one.
Hold on. We coming to you.
Okay, perfect.
It's like Amazon Prime.
I would say I would say a big myth is that men can't be emotional and vulnerable.
Agreed.
I feel like that is the absolute sign of a true man, because that means he's been able to really be one with himself and tap into what he's feeling, and he's been able to connect and create a community of people who he feels emotionally safe with, as well as a man who walks in humility. I feel like a lot of people have the misconception that all men have these big egos. And there are a lot of men of God in particular who understand, like, they submit their leadership to God, get their wisdom from Christ. And so in order to do that, you have to have some level of humility.
Any other myths? Kevin, Headkrack, anybody in the audience, any other myths around the idea of what it means to be a man that you feel like is unsubstantiated?
You know, I think there's been a forever running myth that, you know, we as men can't emote or be emotional. You know, I think a lot of times we find an early grave because we bottle a lot of things up inside and don't necessarily express our true feelings. And then sometimes, too, when you feel like you can't talk to the person that's closest to you, whether it be a girlfriend, wife, spouse, or whatever, you find ears outside of the home. And that's how the trap opens up. And, you know, because, like, here's the thing. People are going to tailor themselves to whatever they feel like you are lacking based off of what you were saying. And if, you know, we as men feel like, okay, I can't even be honest with you or tell you how I truly feel without you blowing up at us, it does create some, you know, some speed bumps along the way, not only mentally for us men, but also within the relationships, because you're going to talk to whoever you feel like is hearing you.
That's very true.
You know what I mean?
That's very true.
You know, you can't weaponize some dude crying the next time you have an argument. Like, you wasn't saying all that when you was crying because your homeboy got killed. It's like we was in the 4th grade together. Goddamn. Like,
don't I have a right to be emotional about this subject?
No, some people don't want to see no cry. Like, you know, like, man, you could like hear the sound of your vagina drying up, like, you know, because you shed a tear, like goddamn.
But I actually have the opposite. I don't know for the other women in the room, but I think that that's some shit that's put on men. I'm not saying women. There's no women who do this, but I honestly think that's some men to men shit. Men make other men feel guilty for expressing their emotions, for even it's like some high school stuff of, oh, you're really into a girl and you do what things that would be that she would like, but they are thinking, oh, you soft, you this. Like, there's a lot of that perpetuating. I see a hand up in the back. There's a lot of that. A couple hands. There's a lot of that perpetuation that it's not okay for you to show that sensitive emotional side. But I feel like that comes from men, and mostly.
There's something there, because I definitely wouldn't cry in front of Kevin, because I just met him. This is the second time I've seen him in person. I'm not crying in front of you. You got to earn these tears. You know, but there has been that stigma of, you know, you gotta, you know, like, yeah, like, you know, I think, yeah, men do put that on, but it carries, that torch carries. But I feel like it started somewhere, and, like, we gotta get to the root of all that. So, I don't know.
So, for those of our producers, making sure that we stay on task time-wise. So, if we don't get you right now, there will be a part. Remember what you have to say. because we will come back to a part later in the podcast where it's free form for you guys to share anything that you didn't get a chance to say during these segments, okay? So one of the things that I feel like is relevant to this concept of being a real man, I'm forgetting this mic here, is the idea of, we've heard this on the internet quite a bit, this idea of a high value man, right? I think it was Kevin Samuels spent a lot of time talking about high value men and what they get and what women who want to be with these men should be prepared to put up with and all of this stuff. So I want to challenge what the standard philosophy about what a high value man is. So, Kevin, do you consider yourself a high value man?
That's a touchy one. High value man should not have this definition that it has now.
Agreed.
That's one thing. How much a person makes financially, how much they make each year, should not determine their value. A lot of people end up in a bad situation going with something because they feel like things will be better because there's more money, but, end up bad, and I'm sure we all know examples of that. So, to me, the value comes in not just that, but being able to be about what you say. And I wanted to...
Being a man of your word.
I want to kind of touch on a point that was mentioned, and this might be slightly controversial, but the idea of a man being able to take care of anything that comes at him, that's not every man. That's not how things work. I know that all of us have jobs or have worked with different people, and you have some people that can only do one thing at a time. You have some people that can multitask, some people that are good in high-stress situations, and you have some people who absolutely collapse in high-stress situations. For each man to be expected to, whatever is thrown at him, that he can handle it and handle it smooth and calm and so on and so forth, that's kind of an unreal expectation. For those that can do it, kudos. That's great. That's a wonderful thing.
Can you do it? I'm putting you on the spot here. Can you do it?
Well, no. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying for us to expect every man to be able to do that type of thing, it's not realistic. What you should expect from each man is what it is that he says that he can do.
True.
And
very true.
A part of what the sister was saying as it pertains to humility, us as men, we have to be humble enough to acknowledge, hey, I can't do that.
Right.
Or this is not where I thrive at. This is not something that I'm best at. To know your strengths and to know your weaknesses. If it's something that you're working on, if it's something that you would like to get better at, but you're not the best at it right now. That type of humility assists the situation in being better, even if you personally can't handle it. So even if you need to have assistance, you need to call on a third party, you need to, let's try something, and if this doesn't work, let's try something else, or whatever. Working on it is also one of these things of a good man, yes. But a lot of times that a lot of us as men are expected to deal with just any situation because you're a man. It's not realistic.
Communication
in every
is
situation.
a big part of that too, because part of all the things that you were saying, if you are someone who identifies that this isn't, changing a tire is not your thing. Not to say that you have to. I'm not sure that is a requirement of being a man. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm not going to get into that.
It's like ground level things. like if y'all get stuck on 20 and,
man 101
and you got to wait 4 hours for AAA to pull up on you, that might be the last time you see that woman. Like,
valid.
I'm just saying.
I was just throwing that as an example. My point is, if whatever it is, if this is something that is not your strong suit, and maybe it's something you want to learn to do or something you want to move towards, I think one of the biggest things that will allow a woman to be understanding is your ability to communicate effectively.
Right.
And say, yeah, I'm working on that, or I haven't got to that yet, or that's not where I am in life. Because this podcast is geared towards men from 18. I don't expect my 18-year-old son to know how to do everything that a man should know how to do.
Do you know how to change the tire, bro? My man.
So you got your ground level accomplishment there.
Yeah.
Can I give a simple example of that?
Sure.
I recall I recall once coming in contact with a few brothers that couldn't pump gas in a car.
Wow.
And I'm saying they were older. They were damn near grown men, but they couldn't pump gas. But it came to turn out that they were from New Jersey.
I was about to ask that.
And in New Jersey, you
can't
cannot
legally
pump
do
gas. They have people that pump your gas for you. Every service station is full service. And so I'm saying they never had that experience. I also met a few brothers who had no idea how to cut grass, how to cut their lawn. I'm from Florida. So I'm saying you do that when you're young. Mm-hmm. Everybody growing up learns how to do some yard work. They were from New York. It's no grass.
Again,
you're
it
right.
depends on where you're from.
I know how to work, so I might have tried to shovel some snow, but all the ins and outs of it, I might not have known. So what I'm saying is, before we come to a conclusion as to, hey, this person isn't a man because he can't do A, B, C, D, or E, we need to leave a little bit of leeway, because the way that you're raised, what you were brought up in, your experiences, develops you into who you are. That doesn't mean that road is over, though. You can still learn and grow and develop more. So when they left New Jersey, of course, they can learn how to pump gas now. But they're learning it as 30, 40-year-old men, where everybody else learns that as soon as you start to drive.
Nah, very good point, because like there are a lot of circumstantial conditions that maybe will put you in a position where you have it. Because I was literally having this conversation with my manager yesterday. She lives in Chicago. We was having this whole shovel snow conversation. Right. And when I lived in New York, I lived in an apartment. I never had to shovel snow. And then when I lived in Texas, it don't snow like that. Right. And we ain't seen snow like that in Atlanta since Snowmageddon. So I don't so if I move to Chicago, I might find myself in the similar position that your people from New Jersey was in, the way like, well, damn, so do I salt the ground with Morton salt? Or is there a different type of salt that I get to go deal with that? So, yeah,
So we're about time on this subject, but I wanted to ask you, Headkrack, do you view yourself as a high-value man? And if so, what makes you that?
So I don't view myself as a high-value man in the way that the fictional character Kevin Samuels created the concept of the high-value man. Because, I mean, y'all do know that Kevin Samuels is like, it's an act, right?
Yeah.
Now it's a ghost act, because
Right.
But he started off doing a different type of...
A completely different thing.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, if I play the villain, people pull up.
Jerry Springer.
Yeah, I mean, so keep it in the bucket of truck. Here's the thing. I am of value to the people who need me to be valuable.
I love that.
You know what I mean? I know my worth. And that is where my value lies. My worth isn't what I do for a living.
Or how tall you are.
Or how tall I am, because I am default height.
Oh my God, that is hilarious.
I can reach most things, but no one's gonna be like, yo, shorty. You know what I mean?
Default height.
I went to Tokyo, I was tall out there. But I just try to in every situation, figure out how I can operate in a spirit of servitude, and that's my value. I like to help people, because if everybody operated in the spirit of servitude, at some point someone's gonna come and serve you if everybody gets on the same train. So that's the wave I'm on, and it is what it is, man.
I love that.
It's not about value and items.
Go ahead, Cash.
Before we get off the high-value man topic, I want to chime in.
Y'all need mics.
Right, you gotta have a mic, Cash.
It's coming.
Oh, I didn't know y'all was gonna show up like this. I would have bought a foot mic. I am underprepared. I am low value right now.
The fact that you can be low value or high value moment to moment is legitimate, though. That's
just to chime in on the topic about the high value man before we get off of it, I feel like this is important just for the men in the room, okay? Because oftentimes I feel like what we have in our community is that we're lacking rites of passage into manhood, mainly because we don't get enough conversations with women as growing up as men, right? We go to our uncles, older brothers, fathers, if they're in your life, whatever male role models you have, and you get what you consider like advice on how to operate and deal with women from other men.
Yep.
You'll never get the full story that way, okay?
Very true.
I feel like I'm a high-value man because in my female to male relationships, over time I've learned the value of being honest.
Yes.
aside from what we were
Hallelujah.
saying about being a man of your word and standing up and doing all the things you do with that, aside from that, just being honest and straightforward about who you are, knowing who you are, what you want, dealing with women specifically, dealing in business, dealing in relationships, you will get so much further with just being honest. So by comparison, I feel like I'm a high value man because I know a lot of niggas around me just be lying. Just be lying. And I value truth and honesty up front, and because of that, people gravitate to that. And I see where that shit, like, it makes a difference. For real.
It does.
So,
I gotta.
that's to the men in the room. You feel me? You want to be a high value man, but just be honest. Be real with yourself and everybody else. Dog.
So any woman or anybody who wanted to speak on this subject, hold it, because my producer is going to you're going to be able to say it. Just okay, come on.
Did she leave?
Come on. Okay. So I'll say my little 2 cents before we move on to the next aspect is what to me is a high value man is someone who, because this is not something I can put under the category of just being what it means to be a man, but to me, a high value man is a man who changes, who is constantly evolving, who is constantly striving to be better. Because as a woman that is like the framework of my life is evolution and change and growth. I can't be with someone who won't change. It's a waste of my fucking time. So a high value man to me is someone who is willing to evolve. And when he's wrong, he's willing to admit it and he's willing to do better. Not just say better, but actually in those moments, in every opportunity he has to be better than he was yesterday. Actually, a quote from the original book of The Way of Kingz that sponsored this, or that, sparked this podcast, is that a hypocrite is just a man in the process of changing. And I loved that. Because you could have been dealing with something in your personal life yesterday that you fucked up terribly, and your wife is telling you how you fucked it up.
Oh, that totally
and then
happened.
you can come on the podcast today and be like, guess what, y'all? I did this yesterday, don't do this no more. He could be considered a hypocrite because he was doing it yesterday, but he's that man in the process of changing. And that is valuable. Okay, we're done with that subject.
Bong bong.
Okay, so one of the things that I developed for the purpose of identifying some of the issues in our framework for manhood, as well as understanding what it means to be a real man, is I took the word real, R.E.A.L, broke it down into an acronym that represented what a real man would look like, how his behavior would be, etc. So number one, to Hurricane was responsible. So you got that one off the bat.
Okay.
For R, E, which Cash said and somebody else said, I think Headkrack might have said, earnest and trustworthy. So
I
that
definitely
honesty
say earnest.
part. Being honest, so earnest, honest, same difference.
Yeah.
But trustworthy. If your significant other, no matter what the dynamic is, or if your children, if your family can't trust you, what are you? What are you? If you can't be trusted, what are you?
A liability.
Oh my God. A fucking liability. That's what you are.
An emotional liability, a physical liability.
Mental liability.
Because when you dispatch somebody to do something and you don't know that they gonna really show up and do what they supposed to do, you're gonna be thinking about that the whole time.
100%. A is for accountable. And that is one of the biggest pillars of this entire podcast, that the theme that we'll be going over and over and over again over the weeks as we do this, is there is not enough accountability in our culture, in families, in dynamics. Go ahead.
You're gonna get your steps in today, buddy.
I just wanted to piggyback that with the accountability, because when the question that you asked was what is a man? I said, when I look in the mirror, I see a man, because I don't want to sit around and wait. There's too much gun violence out here, people dying. And everybody's like, well, we need to come up with a solution. But a real man stands up and becomes the solution.
Yes.
And
Yes.
teaches others how to be the solution.
Yes.
And when you said the accountability, it just really rung
That
off
is
on
accountability.
me. Yeah. So yeah.
I gotta give you that, because what the perspective that you talked about accountability is different than even I initially intended it when I said it, although it encompasses it. Personal accountability versus being accountable for your culture, for the lessons that you've learned, and helping others move through their own stuff. Now, there's a lady back there that has something to say, and I want her to say what she has to say now, because I just saw her 2 seconds ago.
She left again? Why they try to find that? Yo,
Okay, as soon as she comes back, we'll deal with that.
my man who just spoke, you got an amazing voice. If you're not like doing voiceovers, you are missing a lot of money. Like, yo, your voice is solid. And I hear a lot of voices. A lot of them are in my head, but yours is great. Shout out to you.
I agree. I support it. The last letter in the word real stands for leaders. Now, there is a misconception that I really feel like is a big deal as it pertains to men and women in relationships, as it pertains to the concept of leadership. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to come back to that. Yes, ma'am. Come on. Share what you had to say. We want to hear what you have to say, and I want to make sure that we get your voice. And thank you for your patience.
Very welcome. Patience is a virtue.
And that make a real man.
Okay, so yeah, I was gonna agree with the accountability part that you said. My voice is kind of loud, but okay. Okay, so yeah, I was gonna agree with the accountability part, and how, and then piggyback on it and be like childhood situations about, like how some black men are, well, not just black men, I'm sorry, but men are raised in family situations. Some of them are single mothers.
Yeah.
Some of them don't have parents.
Yeah.
Some of them have parents and parents are not present. So that all goes back to like some of them having emotions and not being allowed to show their emotions, and that carrying over to adulthood.
Yep.
And yeah, that does start the lying in the childhood to the mother about, what you're doing and stuff. And it carries over to basically them lying to their significant other, and,
Very
things,
true.
one thing leads to another. So yeah, that's what I was saying.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for coming back, and thank you for sharing that. So I'm going to get through this last part of the segment really quickly, because on one side, we have identified characteristics of a real man, right? And I'm going to deal with the leadership thing for just a second. Having male parts does not qualify you to lead anybody. And women are not cattle. We do not need to be led in that traditional sense. A relationship is a partnership. And there are aspects of a relationship where the man takes the lead, and aspects where women takes the lead. That dynamic, that give and take, that balance is what makes a relationship work. But if one person has taken it upon themselves, whether they think it's some kind of divine thing or not, where they are the one, they make the decision, they set the course, and it's our job to follow. You can literally follow them off of a freaking cliff. That is not where you have that balance and that responsibility and that accountability in that relationship. I am directionally challenged. If I'm on a road trip with my significant other, I know if it wasn't for GPS, I wouldn't function as an adult. So I am not going to be trying to tell him where to go. I'm going to sit back and let him lead. Now, I have a special area of skill as it pertains to food and diet and how my family should eat and how I set things up. In that regard, he lets me lead, because that's my thing. But that's an example of how that works without there being one person that's just making all the decisions and in charge of everybody.
Yeah, I think, it balances out with some of the things you said earlier about being able to make adjustments. Because as you go from relationship to relationship, the role that you'll have to play or the chemistry that you feel in that composition of the relationship may change and alter. Like, you was just saying that some men only want to lead because maybe they've been in situations where, like, yo, this person isn't good at anything. I gotta lead everything. But damn, she's a great listener. And that's the dynamic of the relationship that makes it 100%. And then there's some situations where you do need that 50-50 to where like, yo, this man is good at making sure, all the bills are paid on time and you're keeping us alive by keeping poison out of our kitchen.
Keeping us alive.
Yeah, so it's about, like Bruce Lee used to say, be like water. Figure out which shape you have to adjust to so you could be that puzzle piece that completes what's needed to complete that relationship and make it 100%.
I agree completely.
But don't lose yourself in the process. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not good at something, don't act like you are if you're not really.
To your point, men who have the philosophy that they want to be leaders, lead yourself first. Decide what it means to be a man and lead yourself. Because you can't lead nobody else. Mm-hmm. You can't lead a church. You can't lead a group of people. You can't lead people at work. You can't mentor people if you aren't responsible and accountable for yourself and leading yourself first. Now, there's the second part of this, I think I'll just say for the next podcast, because this is a whole nother subject in and of itself, and we got to get through, like, what we're here to do today without taking too much time on the subject. So we will come back to, we have the R.E.A.L. We've established what that acronym is. There's a second part to that deals with the other side of that equation. So stay tuned for that for the next podcast. Now, one of the things, you all kind of already answered, the women in the audience, how you recognize or how you identify a real man. So that answers that part of the equation. Now, one of the things that I think that is extremely important is to talk about the cultural impact of not having real men in the homes, how men who think they're men are affecting the next generation. And I'm going to give an example. So a man who has the physical stature of a man, he's the right age, on paper he looks like a man, but is not actually behaving like a man, who chooses to have children. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't know what being a man actually is, how is he going to teach his children how to be a man? And then what does he do to the women that he's in a relationship with? Men who do not know how to be real men leave their significant others, their women, their wives in pieces. And those women are left to raise these children, who now are looking at men in a light that is not fair, like across the board. And the young men are being viewed from the perspective of this man that left her in pieces. She's got super glue out, and she is trying to find all the pieces of herself. So this goes back to why this podcast, why this is about men, because that impact, to me, from what I can see, is bigger than anything else, because it perpetuates a cycle of us never really getting to a point where men are accountable for being who they have the potential to be.
I mean, fair enough. But I think in a lot of situations, I think we as a society are put in a position where we're so easy and quick to give up on a relationship.
That's true.
And not work through things.
I agree.
We're so easy and quick to run because we all have extra options. Well, like, if this don't work out, then I'll entertain this other thing over here or this other thing over there. And I think, the difference between, the generation that we're dealing with right now and the culture that has been created by all of this instant access and ease of access to everything is we don't put in the work.
I agree.
There's so many people out there on their third or fourth marriage or people who got kids that they ain't seen in years, whether it be because they made more kids,
right,
outside of that relationship,
but they gave up on those.
But there be situations where the mother don't make it easy for the father to see the kid because she mad that the relationship didn't work out.
Very true.
We're all fucked up. Like men, women, like we're all suffering from the PTSD of all the things
trauma
that also our parents suffered and our grandparents suffered. Like, the fact that you might get diabetes early ain't the only thing you inherited from your folks. Like all that stress, all the things these people went through, all that's in our DNA.
It is.
And we have to get better at working through our shit.
Yes.
more so than ever before because,
each other.
yo, I mean, because, like, listen, I can stand 10 toes down as a man, but I'm much stronger with help. And sometimes a lot of times that help comes from a strong woman. And also other stronger men around me that have a similar vision that can help me push on. So that's why I'm always optimistic about meeting new people and vibing with right energy. Like the way me and La met is crazy. The way me and Sharif met is crazy. The way me and Kevin met is crazy. But, the universe brought us together because I think we all needed each other, to complete this puzzle that we present for you tonight. Like, this came together like 2.5 weeks.
Literally.
Like, freestyling.
Literally.
God did this.
So what you said, I 100% agree with, and I want to put this out for those who will be joining us next week. I want to dive more into what determines, because that actually was a conversation I had earlier today when someone was trying to explain to me what they thought should determine if you should stay in a relationship or leave one. And I think that is a very important conversation to have, because there is a point where it becomes abusive and traumatic and not helpful. But to Headkrack's point, I 100% believe that a lot of people are easy button, and when something goes wrong, when somebody has poor behavior, etc., that there is not enough effort to try to fix it before we try to bail. So I want you guys who are planning to be with us next week to think on what do you think are the parameters for staying or leaving? And I want you all to be prepared to say that next week, because I think that's a big thing that we need to address and discuss. Now, there's homework before we get to Kevin's section. There's some homework for you guys, which is for the men in the room specifically. And actually, I did this exercise myself, so I'm gonna challenge the women to do the same for them as women. The question is, put down on paper, put it in a note on your phone, whatever method works, write it in your journal, what type of man you want to be. Identify in this, you can put down who you believe yourself to be now, right? As a baseline. What characteristics you want to have that you don't have. What defining characters, what defining traits do you want to get? What do you want people, how do you want people to see you, right? And the biggest part of this is how you're going to accomplish it. Because you can write down anything you want. You can say, I want to be honest, I want to be trustworthy, I want to be this. But if there's no practical action steps to go along with that, then it doesn't matter. So part of what allows your brain to start making the connection between saying something and doing it is the figuring out the logistics. So if I want to be honest, and I know right now that I may not be the most honest person, what am I going to do? What is my process of becoming an honest man? If that's what is listed on there. So as women, I have mine saved in my phone as the woman I'm becoming. Not just who I want to be, but I'm taking ownership of that now. This is the woman I'm becoming. And I've done this exercise. I had my son do this exercise, especially when he turned 18. But I think part of what is wrong with our culture, what is missing, is a guiding light, an anchor, a North Star. And sometimes religion is God is that for some people, but a lot of times it's not practically enough.
It looks different for everybody.
It looks different. So by you deciding who you want to be, by you creating your own anchor, your own North Star, your own point that you hold yourself accountable to, that you have a commitment to, that you are responsible for, that you're being earnest and trustworthy about, that should help men. So anyone listening to this later on, that should help you move in the direction that you actually want to be. So that is my challenge to the men and the women of this podcast that will be joining us. And anyone who wants to share that in coming weeks, whether it takes you a week or 2 weeks or a month to do this, we would love to hear that. Now, that being said, Mr. Kevin Williams has a segment that we're going to be doing every week, which is Get Rich With Me, Get Rich With Us.
Get rich with us.
Get Rich With Us. And he's going to share some very unique perspective on that topic. So I turn it over to you.
All right, so usually when you hear the term get rich, it's in the financial section only. It shouldn't be. What rich means in the financial section is that you've excelled. or that you've done extremely well as it pertains to finance. But we should be rich in all the different categories of life. Whether it's in our relationship, we should excel. We should have the same amount of energy to excel there. At our job or our craft or whatever it is that we do, we should get rich in that, meaning we should be the expert in that field. We should be working towards getting better and better and better at that. As it pertains to being a father, we should get rich in that field. We want to constantly be better as being a father, as being a leader, as being an example. Whatever it is that is determined, we should not just operate in that category. We should excel in it. And what we'll find out through this podcast is that a lot of the keys of being successful in all of these different categories, they're the same. The same things that are going to make you successful in your relationship are going to make you successful at your job. The same things that's going to make you successful at your job is going to make you successful as being a father. A lot of the characteristics that we talked about as being honest and being a good communicator and being this and being that, those things apply in every category. And the good thing about it is that because you're determining the man that you're going to be, you're determining the person that you're going to be, you get to set the standard as far as where you're going. You just have to live up to your own standard, not someone else's, not something that, comes out of a book or a podcast or anything else, but your own standards. Once you said, hey, this is who I'm going to be, this is what I want to be about, all of these different characteristics now can apply to you being that individual and getting better and better at it. I think Headkrack was saying one of the ideas as far as it's a constantly evolving or constantly changing thing in relationships. That's true. But depending on your line of work, it's the same thing. Constantly changing, constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And if you're not constantly trying to learn, adapt, and get better at it, then you can quickly fall behind. Same way you can in a relationship. The same way you can at whatever your craft is. A lot of technology causes things to advance quickly. If you don't stay up on the latest technology, then you can't actually be rich in that area. But the person who knows all the ins and outs, all the details of it, can constantly excel. And in their world, in their field, they can be rich. So what we want to do in this podcast is go over what's going to cause us to not just understand something, not just talk about a topic, not just feel good after we talk about it, but be able to practically do something with it so that we can excel in that topic. Whether it's our finances, our credit score, most people don't even know what their credit score is. All of these different areas we shouldn't just exist in. We should excel. Yeah. And together, by us all lending different keys and pointing out the things that are consistent with relationships, jobs, and or finance, the things that are consistent that will help us excel, the more and more we apply it, the more and more we'll find ourselves excelling in all these different categories. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Drop them gems.
I'm down for getting rich with this whole segment. I'm all for it.
Love it, love it.
All the parts. Thank you guys for taking the time to come out and drink with us and have breakfast for dinner with us and to share your thoughts, to hear ours. As Headkrack reminded me here. I know that this may not have been what you all would normally do on a Tuesday night, but I hope it becomes what you choose to do on a Tuesday night from now on, because you know that this conversation is necessary. You know that you're walking away with something that will help you be a better version of yourself, whether you're a man or woman. And women who are visiting us and participating, your perspective is so valuable. Your stories, your experiences, how men have affected you in your life, and some of the gems that Headkrack is going to give, that Kevin's going to give, and some of the audience members are going to help you understand how to process the men in your life better, how to support them better, how to interact with them better, how to encourage them better, to become the version that they write down on that sheet that they want to be. So I hope that you guys gathered from this why we're here and what we're looking to accomplish. And I hope that you will invite your friends and family. And we got Chef Jason to come over here and talk to us from the R.E.A.L Milk and Honey. Bring your friends, family, your children of age, etc., to have this conversation with us because this is so, so important. And this podcast was sponsored by the R.E.A.L Milk and Honey.
Shout
This
out.
is Chef Jason here.
How y'all doing?
Oh, Mike.
How y'all doing?
All right.
I'm glad y'all came out tonight. I can't forget my partner in crime, Lisa.
Hey,
My
Lisa.
GM.
What up?
So hopefully the next time we do this, it'll be just as exciting. We'll have more people here, and the information will be useful to everybody.
Absolutely.
All right?
Appreciate you, Chef.
Thank you, Chef.
Not a problem. Oh, and I was told we having an after party. We just having drinks tonight.
Hey.
When the music comes on and the liquor is going, it is what it is.
It's the vibes.
Headkrack, did you have anything?
Yo, listen, man, I just appreciate everybody for pulling up and supporting us, man. We call this like a soft opening in the business. And hold on, what you saying, Chef? The kitchen's shutting down in 5 minutes. Can I get an order of salmon bites, please? Yeah, but we appreciate y'all pulling up on us. Shout out to our guy Reef, and one more time. It takes me 3 times to get a name. Your name? Yo, shout out to Reef and West for helping us put this together, man.
Thank you, Sharif.
You know,
Thank
you don't
you,
get to see
Wes.
all the parts that help the wheels spin, but yo, couldn't have done it without you guys. And man, appreciate everybody who came out on a Tuesday night, man, in the cold weather.
Yes. Kevin, did you have anything final?
Thank you all for coming out. God bless. Good night.
All right. Big Def Comedy, damn, that is you.
Thank you all for coming to the Way of Kingz.
I say gang, gang,